I'm curious as to what happens or what one should do if their HRV is reduced for maybe 3 or 4 or more days in a row.
Absolutely. The next question that I'm going to ask is, am I in that adaptation phase? If so, I'm going to still ignore it, just like I did if it was a single bad day, but I'm going to start watching it very carefully. I may actually now introduce some other tests. So I may use a performance test. We may look at something else, maybe ask questions, maybe have some communication either with myself or somebody else. So I'm going to start paying more attention, but I'm still really not going to take much action until that crosses more than 7 days of consistent problems. If it does do that, or we're in a peaking phase, then I'm going to go to another set of solutions that are truly going to pull me out of the hole rather than just be those acute state shifters. These are more what I call chronic state shifters. Now, some of these are actually very similar to the ones we've used before. For example, thermal stress. So I can promise you, if your recovery score is in the tanks and you walk outside and you jump in your 35-degree water and you get back out, what's going to happen is your HRV score immediately afterwards, I'm talking within seconds, is going to be significantly compromised, right? In other words, think about that. Remember, a low HRV means a high sympathetic. I promise you, cold water will put you in a high sympathetic drive. However, and we've tested this pretty extensively, looking at HRV 0, 15, 30, 60, 90, all the way up to 180 minutes post. And on average, you will see your HRV score continue to rise after that. And so while you'll have this immediate sympathetic response, you will immediately then respond about 30 minutes on most people, depends on the person though, and that score will be improved for several hours afterwards. So heat can kind of have a similar effect. That actually, again, it's sort of an acute fix, but over time, as we've described earlier, that can also have a little bit of a chronic effect. We can also then get into areas like sleep. And so now we're gonna start playing and exploring why, are you sleeping poor as well? Or was your sleep score fine, but your HRV was low? That's a little bit of a different answer. If your sleep is getting compromised, then we're gonna start going into and making sure we're improving our sleep. In terms of like brain stuff, instead of maybe playing a game or having music or some of those other tricks, those aren't gonna really have a chronic effect. But you can do things like work on social connection. That's actually been shown to improve recovery over time. You can do things like journaling or meditation, and those have an acute effect as well as a chronic effect. So again, if you go journal right now, you probably feel better, but also we know that over time that will gradually improve things. So adaptogens and things like that also can have a chronic effect. So can things like electrolytes or food or hydration if those things were off. So we're gonna go to a whole number of areas, but those are the primary ones. Outstanding of all that, of course, it may be simply a time to go back and reassess our training program. If that's truly the case. So that's where we're at. If so, we're probably going to either completely remove training or drop it to like 50% or so until we start rebounding back to baseline.